My brother stood up at my promotion dinner, called me useless in front of everyone, and my parents actually clapped. But I had a secret that was about to destroy them all. This is the story of Maris, a 41-year-old marketing director from Manchester. She spent years climbing the corporate ladder, finally landing the promotion she'd dreamed of. She invited her family to dinner to celebrate. She expected hugs, congratulations, maybe even some pride. Instead, she got humiliation. And what happened next tore her family apart forever. Let me paint you a picture of what Maris's life looked like before this dinner. She was the oldest of 3 kids. Her parents, Harold and Denise, raised her in a modest home in Manchester. They weren't wealthy, but they managed. Her younger brother Daniel was always the golden child. Sports teams, music lessons, the works. Her younger sister Emily was quiet, kind of stayed in the background. Maris? She was the responsible one. The one who studied hard, got good grades, went to university. She worked part-time jobs to help pay for her education while Daniel got his tuition handed to him. Nobody ever said it out loud, but she could feel it. Daniel was the favorite. After university, Maris landed a job in marketing. It was entry-level, nothing fancy, but she worked hard. Really hard. Late nights, weekends, taking on projects nobody else wanted. And it paid off. She climbed the ladder. Junior executive. Senior executive. Manager. And finally, after 15 years of grinding, she made it to marketing director. Around the same time, she met Mark. He was kind, supportive, and actually saw her. Really saw her. They got married when she was 32 and had a daughter, Amelia, a few years later. Life was good. Life was stable. But there was something her husband didn't know. Something nobody in her new little family knew. 5 years ago, her parents called her in a panic. Their mortgage was in trouble. Harold had been laid off from his factory job and Denise's income as a part-time cleaner wasn't enough. They were going to lose the house. The house Maris grew up in. The house that held every childhood memory. So Maris did what she always did. She stepped up. She started paying their mortgage. £4,500 every single month. That's over £50,000 a year. She paid it quietly, never mentioning it to Mark because she didn't want to burden him. She just adjusted their budget, cut back on vacations, drove an older car, and made it work. She told her parents not to tell anyone. Not Daniel, not Emily, not extended family. She didn't want praise. She didn't want to make anyone feel bad. She just wanted to help. And for 5 years, she did exactly that. She kept her parents afloat while building her career and raising her daughter. Now, back to that dinner. Maris booked a table at a nice restaurant. Nothing too fancy, but nice enough for a celebration. She invited her parents, Daniel, Emily, and their partners. Mark came with her, and they left Amelia with a babysitter. She was nervous but excited. This promotion was huge. It came with a significant raise, more responsibility, and recognition. She'd worked so hard for this moment. Everyone arrived. Pleasantries were exchanged. They ordered drinks, looked at menus. Maris was waiting for the right moment to share her news. That moment came after appetizers. She stood up, glass in hand, and cleared her throat. So, I wanted to bring you all here tonight because I have some really good news. After 15 years at the company, I've been promoted to marketing director. It's a big step up, and I'm really proud of it. I just wanted to share this with the people who matter most. She looked around the table, expecting smiles. Her mom gave a tight-lipped nod. Her dad grunted something that might have been congratulations. Emily smiled, at least. Daniel? Daniel leaned back in his chair with this smirk on his face. That's great, Maris, he said, but his tone was dripping with sarcasm. Really great. You always were the career-focused one. Thanks, Daniel, she said, trying to ignore the edge in his voice. Then he put his fork down and looked around the table. You know what's funny, though? Maris is so busy climbing the corporate ladder, but she never does anything for this family. The table went quiet. Maris felt her stomach drop. What are you talking about? She asked. I'm just saying, Daniel continued, leaning forward, you're always so wrapped up in your job, your life, your perfect little family. But when was the last time you actually contributed anything to Mom and Dad? When was the last time you helped them out? Maris's hands were shaking. She looked at her parents, waiting for them to step in, to correct him, to tell him the truth. But Harold and Denise said nothing. Daniel kept going. Meanwhile, I'm over here helping them with repairs, driving them to appointments, actually being present. But yeah, congratulations on your promotion. And then, the worst part. Daniel started clapping. Slow, mocking claps. And Harold joined in. Then Denise. Maris stood there, frozen, as her parents applauded her brother's speech. The speech that called her useless. The speech that erased 5 years of financial sacrifice. Mark reached for her hand, but she pulled away. She was done. Maris sat back down. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just took a sip of water and looked at Daniel. You're right, she said calmly. I should contribute more. Daniel looked smug. Harold and Denise looked relieved, like the tension was over. So let me tell you what I'm going to stop contributing. Everyone looked confused. For the past 5 years, I've been paying £4,500 every single month to cover Mom and Dad's mortgage. That's £54,000 a year. Over £250,000 total. I also paid for their home insurance, their car insurance, and their heating bills in the winter. You could hear a pin drop. Harold's face went white. Denise covered her mouth with her hand. Emily looked shocked. Daniel? Daniel just stared at her. But since I never do anything for this family, I'm done. Starting today, I'm canceling all the payments. Good luck with the mortgage. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and looked at Mark. Let's go. Mark followed her out without a word. Behind them, chaos erupted. She could hear her mother crying, her father shouting, Daniel trying to backtrack. But she didn't stop. She walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. The next few days were a nightmare. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Harold called 12 times in 1 hour. Denise left voicemails begging her to reconsider, saying they didn't know, saying Daniel didn't mean it. But Maris knew better. They knew exactly what she'd been doing. They just didn't care. Then things got worse. Daniel started a campaign on social media. He posted vague things about family members who abandon their parents, who think money is more important than love. He never named Maris directly, but everyone knew who he was talking about. Extended family started reaching out. Aunts, uncles, cousins she hadn't spoken to in years. Some were supportive. Most weren't. They called her selfish, cold, heartless. They said family is supposed to stick together no matter what. She blocked most of them. But Daniel wasn't done. One day, he showed up at Mark's office. Mark worked as an architect at a mid-sized firm. Daniel walked right in, made a scene in the lobby, accused Mark of turning Maris against her family. Security had to escort him out. Mark came home that night looking shaken. He showed up at my work, he said. He's losing it. Maris felt guilty. She dragged Mark and Amelia into this mess. But Mark put his arm around her. You did the right thing, he said. They used you. For years. You don't owe them anything. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about everything. The years of payments. The sacrifices. The silence. And then she remembered something her Aunt Margaret had told her once. Margaret was Harold's sister, and she'd always been kind to Maris. She'd kept her distance from most of the family drama. Maris called her the next morning. Margaret, I need to ask you something. Did Daniel know? Did he know I was paying for the house? There was a long pause. Yes, Margaret finally said. He knew. Your father told him about 3 years ago. Daniel said he was relieved because it meant he didn't have to help. Maris felt like she'd been punched in the gut. He knew the whole time. Yes. And he stayed quiet because it was easier for him. I'm sorry, Maris. I should have told you sooner. That was it. That was the final straw. Maris sat down with Mark that evening and told him everything. Every payment, every sacrifice, every lie. Mark listened, and when she finished, he said one thing. We need to protect ourselves. They hired a lawyer. They documented everything. Bank statements, transfer records, emails with her parents. They built a case just in case Daniel or her parents tried to take legal action. Then Maris sent one final email to her parents. It was short. I will no longer be in contact with you. Do not call me. Do not show up at my home. Do not contact Mark or Amelia. I've done everything I could for you, and you repaid me with humiliation. I'm done. She hit send and blocked their numbers. A month later, she heard through Aunt Margaret that the house had been repossessed. Harold and Denise moved into a small flat. Daniel, who'd been living at home rent-free, had to find his own place. He ended up in a cramped flat share, working retail to make ends meet. Emily reached out to Maris privately. She apologized for not speaking up at the dinner. She said she'd always admired Maris but never knew how to show it. Maris forgave her, and they started rebuilding their relationship slowly. But Harold, Denise, and Daniel? They were gone from her life. Months passed. Maris threw herself into her new role at work. She excelled. She built a strong team, landed major clients, and earned respect. Her career flourished without the weight of her family's mortgage dragging her down. At home, things were better too. She spent more time with Amelia. They took a vacation to Spain, something they'd been putting off for years. Mark was happier too. He said Maris seemed lighter, freer. One day, while cleaning out a drawer, she found old receipts. 5 years' worth of mortgage payments, neatly filed away. She almost threw them out, but something stopped her. She kept them. Not as evidence or ammunition, but as a reminder. A reminder of her strength. A reminder that she'd carried her family on her back for years, and they never once said thank you. But she didn't need their thanks anymore. She'd built a new family. A real family. One with Mark, Amelia, Emily, Aunt Margaret, and a few close friends who'd stood by her. She realized something important during those months. Family isn't about blood. Family is about loyalty. Family is about showing up, about respect, about actually caring. And her parents and Daniel? They'd never been family. Not really. Years of silence. Years of sacrifice. Years of being taken for granted. Maris had spent so much of her life trying to be the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who fixed everything. And what did it get her? Applause at her own humiliation. But walking away from them was the best decision she ever made. She stopped carrying their weight, and suddenly, she could breathe. She could focus on her own family, her own life, her own happiness. Did it hurt? Absolutely. Did she grieve the family she thought she had? Every single day at first. But eventually, the pain faded. And what replaced it was peace. Peace knowing she'd done the right thing. Peace knowing she'd set boundaries. Peace knowing she was finally free. And that restaurant dinner? That horrible, painful moment when her parents clapped for Daniel's cruelty? It was the best thing that ever happened to her. Because it showed her exactly who they were. And it gave her permission to walk away. If this story hit home, make sure you're subscribed for more.